Imagine this. You've just taken a bite of like the most perfect piece of cake.
Yeah.
Fluffy, golden brown.
Oh, yeah.
It's soft, melt in your mouth, pure bliss. But what if I told you that the very fats making it amazing might be, well, secretly messing with your health?
Yeah.
Things like heart issues, maybe even obesity.
It's absolutely true. While those fats are, let's face it, crucial for incredible baked goods, the high levels of saturated fats and especially trans fats, well, they're known culprits.
Right.
We're talking about a whole range of health concerns, chronic inflammation, significantly increased risk of cardiovascular diseases. It's serious stuff.
Serious enough for regulations even.
Yeah, I mean, the US FDA has issued strict guidelines basically wanting trans fatty acids gone from our food supply. That really shows you the scale of the health concerns.
Wow. Okay, that's a powerful point. And I guess it's this tension, right? The health risk versus, how vital fat is for yummy food.
Yeah.
That led researchers to think differently. So for this deep dive, we're getting straight into it. We're exploring a really fascinating leap in food science.
It really is.
How researchers are figuring out how to make healthier versions of things we love, like cake, by rethinking the fats. Our mission today is to unpack this cutting-edge study. It's from the International Journal of Food Engineering. It looks at using something called oleogels.
Oleogels, yeah.
To replace butter in whole wheat sponge cakes. And the key thing, without losing that taste or texture, we love.
So we're here to pull out the key bits of knowledge and understand what this could mean for, well, the future of our food.
And the challenge for bakers has always been, solid fats, butter, shortenings, they're just essential.
Can't do without them, really.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
They give structure, that mouthfeel, the functional properties that make a cake, well, a cake if you just swap them for healthier liquid oil.
Disaster.
Often, yeah. It usually compromises the quality massively. It ends up dry or crumbly or
Yeah.
just not right. Totally. I tried that once. Swap butter for olive oil in a cake. Oh, man. It was like a dense, oily brick. Not good.
Huh. Yeah, I can imagine. A hockey puck, you said.
Pretty much. So
Yeah.
the challenge is real. And that's where these oleogels come in.
Wow.
As a clever fix, what are they really?
At their core, oleogels are a really smart way to structure healthier vegetable oils. The ones rich in unsaturated fatty acids.
Good fats.
Exactly, to give them solid-like properties. Think of it like solidifying a liquid oil, but without using unhealthy methods like hydrogenation.
Oh.
It's about getting the texture and function of a solid fat, but with a much healthier profile.
Okay, that does sound a bit like food magic. How do they actually make them? Can you walk us through the science in this study?
It feels like magic, but it's pure science. So in this specific study, they focused on sunflower oil.
Okay. Why sunflower oil?
It's a great choice, actually. High in those good polyunsaturated fats, widely available, and pretty cost-effective, too.
Makes sense.
They structured it with just a tiny amount, 5% by weight, of sunflower wax. Natural waxes, like this one, can form this amazing three-dimensional network, like a microscopic scaffold. And that network gels the oil. Even with just a small amount of wax, it basically traps the liquid oil and makes it act like a solid.
Okay, interesting. And you mentioned there was a specific twist in this study, something new they added.
Absolutely, and this is where it gets really innovative. They added specific crystal modifiers, basically emulsifier.
Emulsifiers, like in salad dressing.
Sort of, yeah. They help things mix. Here they use two types. One called SPAN 80 or S80, which is hydrophobic water-faring, so it likes fats.
Okay.
And another called Tween 80 or T80, which is hydrophilic, water-loving, mixes well with water.
Right.
And their big idea, their hypothesis, was that adding these emulsifiers would really boost not just the oleogel itself, but the final structure and texture of the cake.
Got it. So they've made these clever new fats. The next step is crucial. Testing them in actual baking, right? How did they set up the experiment?
Yeah, they did a very thorough setup. First, they made the oleogels with those specific emulsifiers, S80 and T80. Then they used these oleogels to replace butter in whole wheat cake batter, either partially, like 50-50, or completely.
Okay, covering all bases.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They compared a control cake, just with butter, to cakes made with the S80 oleogel, the T80 oleogel, and then those 50-50 blends. S80B and T80B, they called them.
So they could see the full effect.
Precisely. From full replacement to partial.
And they didn't just, taste test them, did they? They used some serious science tools. What kind of things were they measuring?
Oh, yeah. They went deep. They looked at everything. Color, obviously important for how it looks.
Sure.
Microstructure, actually looking at the air bubbles under a microscope, super important for texture.
Air bubbles, right.
Then thermal properties, like starch gelatinization,
Yeah.
using something called DSC differential scanning calorimetry.
DSC. What does that tell them?
It basically measures how ingredients react to heat during baking, so it shows how the starch is cooking and setting the structure. Crucial stuff.
Okay.
They used FTIR spectroscopy to look at molecular interactions like how gluten and starch are connecting.
Wow.
And of course, texture, measuring things like firmness, chewiness, using techniques called stress relaxation and texture profile analysis, TPA.
So a really comprehensive picture.
Absolutely. Multi-layered, looking at it from all angles.
Okay, let's dig into the batter first.
Yeah.
Because, that's where it all starts for a cake. I always hear that air bubbles are key. What's fat's role there normally?
You're spot on. Air is critical. Cake batter is essentially an aerated emulsion, fat and water.
Right.
And traditional shortening, or butter, its job is to trap air bubbles during mixing and then hold on to them, stabilize them. These bubbles give the cake lightness, volume.
A fluffiness.
Exactly. Now, here's where it got really interesting in the study. The T80 batter, remember, the one with the water-loving tween 80 emulsifier?
Yeah.
It showed a lot of air bubbles, and they were really well stabilized by the wax crystals in the oleogel.
So it was doing the job.
It seemed to be doing the job incredibly well, mimicking, maybe even improving on what traditional fat does for aeration.
Okay, so what does that mean for us wanting a good cake?
It means getting that good, even distribution of small air bubbles is just fundamental for that light, airy, consistent texture we love.
And T80 nailed it.
T80 really seemed to nail it, created this fine, stable bubble structure. Now contrast that with the S80 batter, the one with the fat-loving span 80.
What happened there?
Fewer bubbles, and they were larger, less evenly spread out. They talked about bubble coalescence.
Coalescence, meaning?
Basically, the small bubbles started merging, clumping together into bigger ones. That leads to a coarser texture, not what you want.
Gotcha. So the type of emulsifier made a huge difference just in the bubbles.
A massive difference. Really dictates the airiness.
Okay, so beyond bubbles, baking involves starch gelatinization. Sounds complex. What did they find with the oleogels there, especially T80?
Yeah, starch gelatinization sounds technical, but it's basically the starch granules absorbing water, swelling up, and breaking down a bit when heated. It's key for the cake setting its structure. Sugar actually helps this along.
Right.
What was fascinating was that the T80 and T80B batters, again, with that hydrophilic tween 80, showed the highest gelatinization enthalpy.
Enthalpy.
Hey, basically, the starch in those batters absorbed the most energy during that gelatinization process. It indicates it was happening really effectively, really prominently.
And why would T80 help with that?
The likely reason is that tween 80, being water-loving, can interact better, like maybe form complexes with the starch molecules.
Ah, okay.
Which seems to strengthen the whole batter structure as it bakes. It's like it helps the starch perform better.
Interesting. Okay, structure also involves gluten, right? How does fat normally interact with gluten, and what did the oleogels do?
That's a great point. Gluten development is huge in baking. Usually fat coats the gluten and starch particle.
How did it do that?
It forms a barrier, essentially. This barrier stops the gluten from forming too strong or tough a network. That helps keep the cake tender.
Right, stops it getting chewy.
Exactly. And the FTIR results, remember, the tool that sees molecular interactions.
Yeah.
They showed that the T80 batter had the least intense signals for gluten structure.
Least intense. So, less gluten network.
That's what it strongly suggests, that the T80 oleogel was really effective at creating that barrier, preventing too much gluten cross-linking.
Which means?
A more tender crumb in the final cake. So T80 seems to be optimizing multiple things: aeration, starch gelatinization, and gluten control.
Wow. So it's not just a healthier fat, it's almost like a smarter fat.
Yeah.
It's actively making the structure better because of its chemistry.
That's a great way to put it. It seems to be actively participating and optimizing these key processes. It's not just a passive replacement, it's potentially an improvement, delivering superior texture while being healthier.
That's kind of revolutionary, isn't it? For years, it's been a health or indulgence.
Precisely.
Yeah.
This kind of research points towards engineering fats that give us the sensory pleasure and the health benefits. That's the big shift.
Okay. So after all that deep batter science,
Yeah.
the moment of truth, the baked cake. And the big news for the T80 cake was softness.
That's right. The T80 cake crumb, when they looked closely, had that nice, even distribution of small air cells we saw starting in the batter.
And that translated directly to texture.
Directly. The texture measurements confirmed it was significantly less firm and less hard than the control cake made with butter.
Softer.
Definitely softer. And its chewiness was also lower, meaning easier to eat, more pleasant.
So connecting the dots. A healthier cake, just as enjoyable, maybe even more so. What about how it looked? Did it look weird?
Nope, appearance held up perfectly. The color analysis showed the lightness was similar to the control, the crust browning was normal.
Phew, that's important.
Absolutely crucial for people to accept it. It looked just like a regular, delicious cake. No visual downsides.
Okay. And while T80 sounds like the winner, were there other maybe subtle texture differences with the other oleogels?
There were. It shows how specific this all is. For instance, the S80B cake, the one with the fat-loving emulsifier and half butter, it was actually less cohesive.
Less cohesive, meaning more crumbly.
Sorry, other way around, it was more prone to crumbling or falling apart, maybe less together. And it also had lower resilience, suggesting a weaker structure.
Why would that be?
The thinking is that the hydrophobic span 80 might have interfered somehow with the starch and protein interactions needed for a strong structure.
So the emulsifier choice is really critical.
Absolutely critical. But the overall good news was that with the right formulation like T80, the fundamental mechanical properties, the basic feel of the cake crumb were preserved. It really worked as a healthier alternative without messing up the texture.
Okay, let's wrap this up. So this deep dive, it really shows a promising direction, doesn't it?
It really does. For the food industry, yeah.
Oleogels, especially ones tweaked with that hydrophilic emulsifier. Tween 80, they look like a real, viable, and healthier swap for butter in cakes.
You get the health pluses of unsaturated fats.
While keeping or maybe even improving that structure and texture people expect, softer, lighter, more even cakes.
It's incredibly exciting, really, for how we think about making healthier foods that people actually want to eat.
Totally. And as we see these kinds of innovations, it makes you wonder, doesn't it, what other everyday foods might be next? Quietly getting a healthy fat makeover behind the scenes.
That's a great question to ponder. The possibilities seem pretty wide open now.